Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Irene Hodes. I am the director of the Sonoma County Jewish and Israeli Film Festivals, and I'm so thrilled to have you here for our first conversation with the filmmaker, Dalit Kimor, who has made the film Mrs. G. And I have some prepared questions, and then I would like to open it up to everybody to ask your questions in the chat. And I'm thrilled to have you all here, and thank you for your support of the JCC. I would like to acknowledge the executive director of the JCC Sonoma County, that's Ellen Bluestein, who is here on the chat. Ellen has been our wonderful leader for many years and was also the director of the film festival prior to me. And thank you for being here, Ellen, and thank you for all of you to be here. Just a word about Dalit before we start asking her some questions and hearing from her. She's a documentary filmmaker and writer and the producer of many award-winning films. Among them, Mrs. G, and we actually saw in film festivals last year, Unkept Secrets, Samira, Ida's Dance Club, Pickles, which I am dying to see and don't know where to find. So maybe Dalit can tell us a little bit more about where her films can be found later on, if it is possible. And a lot of her films deal with social issues and women's rights. So welcome, Dalit.
Hi.
Hello. And I would first of all like to ask you, well, we have very much enjoyed watching Mrs. G. It's so charming and such an amazing documentary to watch, very enjoyable and creative. What got you started? How did you think of doing a film about Lea Gottlieb? And how did you get involved with this project?
Actually, it was my idea. The producer approached me and asked me to do the film. And actually, it's the first time in my life that I'm doing a film about fashion, about art. I usually deal with the heavy stuff, with social issues, very sad films. And suddenly it was so uplifting and I learned so much. And I think it's, I have two sides in me. I can be very serious and very, but I also like to have fun. And this movie was it was fun making. And it's the first time ever that I directed animation also. And I learned so. Actually, the idea came from two women, Karen Ben Chorin and Ayala Raz, Karen wrote her thesis about Lea Gottlieb. And I kind of adopted the thesis and made a film from it.
Wow. And did you know much about her and the story around her before, for years beforehand?
Listen, everybody knew Gottex. Everybody in Israel over a certain age knows. When I was in the film festival in New York, I asked the audience, a Jewish film festival, how many of the audience knew Gottex or had bathing suits of Gottex, and about 2/3 of the audience raised their hands. So everybody knew Lea Gottlieb and Gottex. But of course, I didn't know her personally.
So you've never met her before? Yeah. As the daughter of an Israeli woman and raised in the United States, we would always look forward to getting the Gottex catalog in the mail in the 80s and 90s, and seeing an Israeli company in our stores and in the beautiful clothing really meant something to us. It was really profound when you're looking for positive reasons about Israel abroad. It was such an element of pride to us. And so I was surprised that as an American Jew, I didn't know much about Lea Gottlieb herself. So it's a really,
there were places in the world that people didn't even know her, didn't hear the word Israel, and they knew Gottex bathing. Do you remember that once there was a show, The Love Boat? You know, The Love Boat, na na na. They used Gottex bathing suits.
It's funny that you mentioned the Love Boat, because I would spend my summers in Israel, and it's actually the only place I ever saw the Love Boat on television. that this was because Israel was so proud of the bathing suits that this was meant to be on Israeli television.
Maybe.
We look forward to it. There was only 2 television channels, and so yeah. So I wanted to mention to everybody, feel free to type your questions in the chat. I am moderating them and reading them, so you can do that. And I did want to ask, we have our first question. How many years have you prepared for the film? And also, what was the process in the filming? How long did it take, and how did you find all the people to connect it in the time frame?
Actually, it wasn't that long. It took me about 1 year to make it, which is not long in documentary filmmaking terms. The key of the source of the film was Miriam, Lea Gottlieb's daughter, because I knew that once I have a relationship with her and she will participate and actually speak about her mother in the film, I have the film, because she was the emotion part of the film. All the other people were people who just worked with her. So they talked about her, you can understand the way she worked and all this stuff, but the emotional part was from Miriam. So I started with Miriam. I told the producer, listen, if we don't have Miriam, we don't have the film. So I spoke with her on Skype and build a relationship with her, and she agreed to participate in the film. It wasn't very easy for her. And after she agreed, then I started to make a research of all the people that Lea Gottlieb worked with. And, you know, you collect all the testimonies from people that worked with her, and you understand. And I worked very closely with Keren Ben-Chorin, the girl that wrote the thesis. So with her, we wrote my goal was to show in the film the way Lea Gottlieb creative method worked. How did she work? How did she think? And to translate it into filmmaker. For instance, if you remember the Egyptian part, okay? So I had to show how she made the Egyptian bathing suits. So we went, Karen took us to, we came to New York, and we went to the Metropolitan Museum where there is an Egyptian exhibition. And we saw the articles that she picked from the Egyptian exhibition and how she translated it into bathing suits, okay? So we took the items, we showed the bathing suits, and I also used the music in order to explain what she did. I started the sequence with Egyptian music, and then I transferred it to modern Arabic music. And that's exactly, she did a kind of collage, she did a kind of postmodernic art, the Egyptian fragments that she used. So the translation, the understanding of the art and translating it into film, this was my main goal.
And I have to say that you really succeeded. And we have a question about, and I'll get back to the previous one, about when the black and white bathing suits came out in color and that animation, and going back to documentary filmmaking at its core being somehow almost investigative journalism meeting art, and how you tell a story is so important. And that the way you told this story, it was as if you were using something real in the world, a real story, but in building it, you built it like somebody designing a costume. And you could see that. And I'm hoping that you can tell us a little bit about the color that entered, you know, the animation, the kaleidoscope and the collage making, cutting, and the colors entering your pictures. And was this your idea? Did you work with different?
My idea, yes. I thought that, listen, it was pretty hard to make. So I mean, I had all kind of materials of models going back and forth with beautiful bathing suits, but this doesn't make a film, right? And afterwards, you get a bit tired from watching another bathing suit. How do you make a film out of it? So in order to solve it, I took the method from Lea Gottlieb. What she did was using always collages, right? Like when she did the bathing suit of Gauguin. So she took all kinds of pictures of Gauguin, put it on the bathing suit, changed colors, and made a new thing of like bathing suits with influence of Gauguin. So I did the same things. I used her influence and all kind of, I used the collage method all over the film. For instance, when I talk with people, interview, the voices change. If you can notice it, one person starts, then another, then another. It's like a collage also in the voices, right? And also Lea Gottlieb, when she was in distress, she used fantasy, right? For instance, she came to Israel. They used to have a factory for raincoats in Europe, in Czechoslovakia. When she came to Israel, they thought that they will continue with what they knew how to make, which was bathing suit. There was only one problem: there's no rain. I mean, there's hardly any rain in Tel Aviv. So they lived in Yafo, making the raincoats, and no rain. So she looks outside her window, and she looks at, what does she see? She sees a lot of sun, a lot of sea, the seashore, and ugly, terrible, ugly bathing suits. So she decided to make bathing suits and to make them colorful. She fantasized the bathing suits before she made them. So I decided to use animation because animation is a great method to show fantasy. So every time in the film, when she's fantasizing something, I use animation. And also I worked with the great animator. I think she's really great, Ayala Sadok. So it was very fun to make it, you know, very inspirational to make.
Yeah,
To,
it came with a little humor also, which was so sweet.
Yeah. Well, you have to. You can't make such a, you know, always, you can't be always sad. It has to, you know, I always try to use humor when it's possible.
Was it difficult to get all of the archival footage? You know, there's so like so much of the film is the pictures, the old pictures from the 60s, 70s, 80s of the women walking. Was the company amenable to getting that?
I mean, there's a museum, Museum Holon, that had actually occupied all the materials of Lea Gottlieb and the old bathing suits, and also all these. I think most of the collection belonged to Miriam. Miriam gave it to us.
I was wondering if you could touch a little bit about, and I know that you didn't meet her personally, but it was so profound that she was a Holocaust survivor, and yet she ended up living a very opulent life. And this juxtaposition between coming from nothing and having been this survivor to almost having this cold upper class spending, wasting so much money. And how that happened and what you think psychologically happened in the course of her life to make her this person.
I think that Miriam is right, that she wanted to prove a point. She was humiliated as a young girl and as a adolescent during the Holocaust and also before. And she wanted to prove a point. She wanted to prove that she can make it. This was very, very important for her, and she also wanted to show that she could. She wanted to show everybody that she did it, that she could make it. And actually, I kind of I also was a bit critical about it. I in a very delicate way, but I tried to show also my criticism about it. For instance, you know, Israel at that time, Lea Gottlieb, very extravagant life, you know, on the top of, on the roof of a very nice place in Tel Aviv, and she always wore Dior and silk and the jet planes and every very expensive food. Nobody in Israel lived like that. So there's a section in the film that I actually deliberately put the Israeli seashore at that time with this person saying, Artiv, Artiv, I don't know how you say it in English.
Popsicles, they're selling
people
cream.
went to the beach in Tel Aviv. They didn't wear, very Pereo that matches the bathing suit and matches. They just took a towel and a bathing suit and went to the beach. Some kind she was making bathing suits for the top
echelon of people, the top class, the
yeah,
rich
top
and famous.
class, not the general Israeli audience of the seashore. And in some way, this is one of the reasons that it collapsed. She didn't adopt herself to the changing circumstances.
We are getting a lot of questions, and I wanted to summarize very quickly. It seemed like the driving force in her life was to prove herself, like throughout, and it pushed her. And I think this might connect. We're getting a lot of questions about her relationship with her daughters and businesswoman versus good mother. And did Lea herself ever talk about this, or is there any footage of this? And then did Miriam have any resolution? Did she make peace with her before, by the end of her life? Did Lea herself have any perspective on this?
First of all, I don't know. I didn't hear about. Miriam wasn't in a fight with her. Miriam was in good, so-called in good. Lea Gottlieb was very dominant until she died. She was calling the shots. Everybody was doing what she said, for better and for worse. And so actually, there were fights with her between the two daughters, between the daughters and her, but it wasn't on the surface. It was, I think, the things that Miriam told us, she could say them because Lea Gottlieb already died. She never said it to her face.
So this film wasn't, in the way that you made it, and the things that were said about her could probably not have been made before she passed away, is what you're saying?
Yes, I'm sure. But although of the criticism, and she wasn't the great mother, that's for sure, okay? But as a businesswoman, she's such an inspiration. She was so creative, even in the worst cases. What I love most about the film is the end. The fact that the business closes, she has to sell the factory. She doesn't give up. At 90 years of age, she opens a new factory. Isn't it great? Isn't it very inspiration? I wish inspirations to us all. So on the choosing between motherhood and a career, she no doubtly she chose the career. Okay. Now, if she was a man, it was accepted. A lot of men behave that way. But because she was a woman, and because it was at these times, it was criticized. But this was her choice until the end, until she died.
It seemed like she also had a very interesting relationship with her husband. It seemed like he didn't do very much but she still, you would describe that she revered him. Like she somewhere in her mind wanted to be a good wife, just to respect her husband. And yet he was powerless in a way.
But she loved him very much. From everybody I heard that she really loved him. Of course he was, sitting somewhere under her heel, but she loved him.
Do you think that he felt differently? Do you know any of his perspective? Did anybody ever talk to him?
Well, listen, I know a lot of things that I can't speak about. You must understand that when you dig in a family's life, you learn about a lot of gossip and some of the mature decision is what not to put in the film.
Right. The dirty laundry and the decisions you have to make.
Exactly.
Yes. We have a question here. What do you feel that it's a patriarchal structure of society that forced her to choose? Was she forced to be a businesswoman or a mother? Do you think that she consciously chose that?
Nobody asked her if you, I don't understand exactly. She chose to be a businesswoman first. And the motherhood was,
Second.
not her first priority. But when the girls were small, her mother was in the house. So the grandmother actually was responsible of the girls.
Oh, so they had a caretaker there as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Do you think she thought she was a good mother?
I really don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think she was very much aware of her, I mean, and also she was a better mother for Miriam than for Judith. Judith suffered much more.
Do you know why?
I don't know, maybe she was weaker, but Lea Gottlieb really put her down and wasn't, maybe she also looked at her as competition because Miriam was only responsible of distribution, but Judith was also a creator like Lea Gottlieb. So she actually felt a competition from her. She put her down. I mean, no doubtly that Lea Gottlieb was incredibly talented. I didn't hear a soul in the world that doesn't agree with that. She was very, very talented. But Judith was also talented, not like her maybe, but she put her down.
When it came to Judith's death, do you know if there was any resolution or if she came to peace with Judith?
No, I don't know of anything like that. No. Actually,
it was very interesting. Yeah.
No, I think that usually have a very happy life. She was divorced, she had cancer, she had terrible relations with her mother. And most of the people I interviewed really liked her. She was very likable, as far as I heard.
That there was a point where you showed a film to Miriam of her mother speaking about how she hid her with a Christian family, and then the story about the bus where she hid her face to show that she wasn't Jewish, and how she saved her children. Was this the first time? It looked like the first time that Miriam had seen that footage.
Yes, it was the first time ever. We we heard about this footage, but we never found it. It took us a very long time to find it in Yad Vashem. She gave once evidence for Yad Vashem, it was recorded, and our researcher found it. So we gave it as a present to Miriam. It was the first time ever that she saw it, she heard it.
What do you interpret the reason that Miriam, during her life, Lea never told her daughters how she survived the Holocaust, how she saved her daughters? I mean, it sounds like a story that you would want to tell in the family about. It's such a almost an inspiring story. What do you think about her never ever telling her family about it?
No, it's not. I don't think that she never ever heard of it. She heard of it, but she didn't hear the details. It wasn't a secret, but she didn't go into details to some of the things that she heard on this tape. She heard for the first time, but it's not that she didn't know that that they were escaping from place to place and all the basic things she knew.
We have a question here about, was success possible for Lea? Could she have been satisfied with her achievements? Do you think she was always chasing something else? Do you think she felt she was accomplished?
I think she felt very much that she was accomplished, that she was very happy with what she did. And if it was up to her, she would have done it for the rest of her life. Also, as she did even after she had to sell the factory. The thing is that the world was changing. She couldn't cope with it. Bathing suits became very cheap. The fashion changed. She couldn't keep up with the changing. What she did was great, but if she would want to be as important as she was before, she would have to be more flexible, which she wasn't.
We have a very good question that I didn't actually think of while I watched the film. Did she participate in any altruism? Did she give to charity? Was there any giving back to Israeli society from her success?
I don't think it was a main issue, but there was once I saw footage of her in every Independence Day. Maybe you can help me. הדליקה משואה ביום העצמאות. איך אומרים את זה? שמדליקים טקס הדלקת משואה ביום העצמאות.
So there are ceremonies every Independence Day. Did she sponsor this or?
No. So when she lit one of the candles in Yom HaAtzmaut, in Independence Day, one of the other that lit the candle, it's kind of a habit that's done every Independence Day, was a young boy, a Russian Israeli boy, that his parents were killed in a bomb. And she decided to kind of adopt him financially and subsidize all him and his brother's school until they are mature. So she did things like that from time to time, but she wasn't, she wasn't known for it. No, if you're asking, no.
Mm-hmm. I see. Oh, and yeah, somebody says, did she light a torch? That's what it was. Was her second enterprise, the factory that she started when she was 90, was it successful or was it just momentary? I know that she died a few years ago.
She managed to, as it says in the film, she managed to sell one collection, and they received, I think, 1 million euro for for the collection that she sold. But then she died. She didn't continue because she was already too old.
Did the company continue after that, or did it die with her?
Yes, but Gottex still exists in Israel. I mean, not under her, but the name Gottex still exists.
I went to the website to see what they were up to. They're still very proud to be Israeli and take all of their photo shoots I see in the desert and this year Machtesh Ramon and all of these places. So.
Not her designs, you can see it immediately.
Yeah. Yes. I have a couple other questions about sort of her and her motif. And I just wanted to point out specifically how much I love this through line of she was saved, part of their story in the Holocaust, in her own words, by smelling the daisies. And that you could see how flowers were such a huge part of her life throughout, whether she had flowers at home and flowers motif in so many of her bathing suits. And then one of her most popular lines, one of the motifs she was most popular for was the daisies on the same exact flower.
Also, her favorite color was yellow.
Wow. Do you think she was very aware of this? Is it some sort of an homage to how she survived, or the world before and the world after?
I don't know. I mean, maybe one or two of the collections, but not especially. And also, I must tell you, we don't know if the story of the daisies is true. Many of the I found while making the film that many of the fashion designers make their own stories, their own life stories. Like Coco Chanel, you know, she made the whole life story. It's not, none of it is true. It's fake news.
Yeah.
So also the story of the daisies, you know, the two research girls that researched the film told me that they think it's fake. But I didn't want to mention it. But I wanted to say something else. It wasn't only that she invented and used all the colors. She is the person that put colors in the bathing suits. And she also used lycra, which was never used before. But also she changed the whole way that people thought about bathing suits all over the world, because she made a whole capsula, a whole resort. It wasn't done until then. So she made the bathing suit and the skirt to go with it, and the pareo to go with. All these things were not. None of it existed before that.
She was a real innovator.
Yeah, she was really. I think she was a genius in terms of fashion. She was the best fashion design of bathing suits in the world, coming from a little place called Israel, a Holocaust survivor that had nothing to start. I mean, she was she started from nothing, becoming the best in the world in this, and create something new. We have to appreciate it.
We do have a couple of very interesting questions. Are there stories that you were especially drawn to that you would like to explore more? Are there stories that you think Lea would have liked to explore more if she was still alive and creating the swimwear? Like what would you have wanted to explore more in your film if you had more time?
No, I think I'm happy with what we did. I mean, there's nothing that I don't think that. There are things, as I told you, that I explored in the film, and I couldn't say it in the film, but, you know, because I had to balance and think of other people and so. But there's nothing that I think I covered it.
And so you're satisfied with the structure of your film? Yeah. Did she ever go back to visit Hungary or Czechoslovakia?
No, I think she deliberately didn't want to go there.
We have a question here. Lea designed.
No, I'm sorry. No, she went with her daughter and her granddaughter to the place where she was born. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that did happen.
Yeah, it did happen. Yes.
We have a question. Lea designed swimsuits and the textiles she used. Where did she find the mills and manufacturers to produce her fabric design?
It says in the film it was all done in Italy, near Como, near Milano.
Okay.
She used the best factories in the world in order to make the colors and make the fabrics that she used. And afterward, it was she brought all the material to Israel, and it was sold here in Israel.
Wow. And I just should go back to how savvy she was as a businesswoman. You know, we know she was innovative with the types of fabrics and how she designed them and the best of the best. I couldn't help but think that she was also very savvy in a way that she was not, I don't want to say opportunistic, but with the two examples of the 1979 Egypt Accord and the Egyptian fashion collection that she had, and then almost relating to 1992 in Germany specifically, where she had this very Jerusalem proud, you know, oh my goodness, they're in Germany and doing this very Israel-centric show. It feels like she knew how to capture this PR moment to stand out.
And not only that, you know, she used all the method of the celebs before it was popular. I think by this way, actually, I think it was more Miriam's idea, but it was also genius. Nobody, I mean, people didn't do it that way. For instance, she's giving a present to Princess Diana, a Gottex bathing suit, right? Then the only thing that they had to do is call the paparazzi and say she's going to be with the bathing suit and they had the best commercial ever, didn't they? So
Yeah,
they
free.
gave a lot of bathing suits for free, you know, for very important women all around the world. And then she had to only to sit down and wait and see that the paparazzi is doing the advertising for her. She doesn't have to pay for it, not even 1 cent. It's done for her, right? So
Right.
this was also because it was the bathing suits which everybody wants to take pictures of, and not, you know, of something that is dull and is not interesting for anyone. So this was also very smart.
Very, very smart. And they're also very beautiful women as well. They're certainly going to be photographed at some point wearing.
Of course.
Why not Gottex?
Yeah. By the way, she used Tammy Ben-Ami, was her model, a very famous model in Israel. She was the first woman in Israel that used a dark model. Usually the models in Israel were light skin, blonde hair, you know, European looking. And she was the first one to use someone dark, like Tammy, very tall and very dark and extremely beautiful. And she spotted her, and she made in Israeli terms, she became a supermodel in Israel, you know.
Do you think that I mean, I saw from your film that she had a very personal connection. She thought Tammy was beautiful, but like she really loved her as a human being. Did
Yes.
she consciously, because she was dark, do you think that she was, you know, making some sort of statement of inclusivity in Israel, that we all look like this and that you shouldn't glorify one image over another?
No, I think she was imitating the States. In the United States, dark models were also starting at this time. What's her name? No, tell me. Very famous dark, dark
Like Naomi Campbell or
Campbell, and also there were two very famous dark. So she thought that it was going in the United States, and I, I don't think she had ideology about it. She just wanted to sell suit. She saw that it was working there, so she did it here too. And also, Tammy, she was a very good relation with Tammy, because Tammy was so nice. Tammy, everybody loved her. She was a very warm and nice personality. She died of cancer. By the way, so many women in the film died of cancer. Judy died of cancer. Tammy died of cancer. Pincimor died. All the 4 top models of this film that are very known in Israel, they all died of breast cancer. I don't know how to explain it.
wow, that's an incredible coincidence.
Yeah, and they were very young and beautiful. Really, very sad.
We have,
Kaufman.
mhm.
You know Sapir Kaufman, the model that looks like Marilyn Monroe?
Yes,
Very
yes.
beautiful. She also died of cancer, like Tammy and like Judith.
I don't know what to say about that. It's tragic. And
I
I'm
don't know, it's a coincidence, but it's very sad.
We have another question here. Interesting. A few of the clips of the swimwear shows remind me a bit of Jewish theater in New York, with the expressiveness of the models' gestures and faces. Is there any connection?
Of what?
Of
Julius Caesar.
Jewish theater.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she made a collection of Julius Caesar. I'm not aware of it, but maybe I'm open to it.
We're getting to speaking to you for about 45 minutes, and I did want to talk about you a little bit as well. If you would like to tell us a little bit about your filmmaking. I find so many of your projects to be really fascinating, and you do focus on women and social issues. I really would love to see some of them, and was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your inspiration and how you choose your projects.
Well, as I told you, I usually do with heavy stuff with social issues. One of my films that I made in 218, 1 year before I made Mrs. G, is called Unkept Secrets, and it's about actually it's a very heavy subject. It's about pedophilia in the ultra-Orthodox community. And it is now on Amazon Prime, if you want to see it. It won about 3 prizes all over the world. I think it's a very good film, and it's a very sad story. And I don't know if you are aware, in Israel here now, there was an explosion of a big story here with Meshi Zahav. Are you aware of this story?
I'm aware of a lot of abuse coming out, but I don't know specifically. Can you tell us
Meshi
more?
Zahav was a very famous rabbi here in Israel, responsible for Zaka, a very important organization, and was not just now, about 1 week ago, discovered as being a child molester and women molester, and it's a huge story here in Israel. And so I really think, see in my eyes how things are changing. When I did this story, the Unkept Secrets story, it's about the major part of it is about ultra-Orthodox family that there was a rabbi, a very famous rabbi in Beitar Illit that everybody worshiped and everybody wanted to be his students. And the first son, Yankee, comes to be his student when he's 13, and the rabbi starts to molest him after school, to use him and to touch him, even to rape him. And then the second brother, 1 year after, starts the same school, and the rabbi starts molesting him too. And then the third brother, Mendy, and he's doing it with him too. And actually, when Yankee became 18, the whole story exploded, and the Yankee, because the fourth brother was now going to the same school. So Yankee decided, that's it. He went to the principal of the school, told the whole story, and the principal behaved very, bravely, and they went to the police. So Yankee comes home and tells his mother and his father, and the whole story blows up, and they thought that in Beitar Illit they will be considered heroes, right? Because they are saving other children, and they went to the police. Instead, all the town went against them, because they are, in Jewish terms, it's called moisering. They are telling the stories that they are putting the dirty laundry in public. It's something that shouldn't be done according to their way of thinking. And I followed them for a year during their the trial that Lison was. They took this rabbi to court. There was a major trial. It took about 3 years until eventually he's now in jail for 7 years. But it was such a hard film to make. And it was so hard to, they had to, not only that they are telling the police, telling the press, and with their faces, you see their faces, children telling to the camera what happened to them without, being disguised. It was very, very hard film to make. And now I think it really made a change, because when I hear about Meshi Zahav, everybody's talking about it for the last 2 weeks, and people are coming out, people are telling. I think sometimes documentary films are not changing the world, but one drop, and then another drop, and then another word, and then the world changes. You know what I mean? It's not one film that is doing it. I'm not so important. The film is not so, but you're taking a part of a change. You're helping to make a change. So I think in this way it was worth it. But for me, it was the hardest film I ever made. And then I had Gottex. I walked around in clouds with a smile on my face. Suddenly I have a film that it's mostly fun, after this film.
It sounds like it must have been
Amazon Prime. If you want to watch it, you can watch it in the States. It's for free.
Well, I am going to definitely publicize that. So I'll let the community know on our Facebook, because we do, of course, want to, we'll make the video available to people, and we'll let them know where to find it. I have heard a great deal and have seen some of Unkept Secrets, and I feel like I want to commend you, because maybe you know that it made a difference, but it made a lot of difference to some people, and if you help even one person, it really helps the universe. So it's just an example of how important documentary films are, and you clearly have made a very big difference to a lot of people.
And by the way, if you have an idea for me, or a subject that you think is important to write about, or a story, I always like to hear. It doesn't matter if it's in this. If you have an idea, write me. Maybe you can publish my email, and I would love it.
Okay. We'll let the community know. And we do have a mention here, and I want to talk about Pickles very quickly, because this seemed like I haven't seen it, and I saw some of the clips in the preview that you have online, and I think that it's a fascinating topic. And just to tell people, it was about, I think, Arab or Muslim widows who don't remarry because their children would be taken away from them if they were to marry again. And could you just say a couple of words about this? I think that this had
I think it was my most successful film, because it was screened all over the world, and also in the United States, coast to coast on PBS. And it was a film about 8 religious Arab women that create all widows between 40 and 50 years old, which created together a factory for pickles. And I followed the factory for a year and a half. And it's a lot of humor, sad moments and humorous moments, and it was very successful. But it's old, it's from 206 or 5, 206, yes.
2006.
2006, yes.
We genuinely have a request. Did you want to give people your email address? Because I could share it here.
No.
It's okay?
My email address, yes.
All right. For the 26 people here, I will paste your email address in the chat. If you would like, I will do that right now.
Also, if you watch the film Unkept Secrets in Amazon Prime, I would love it if you write something there.
Oh yes, to write a review, absolutely. You can hear it here, community. If you do watch it on Amazon, you have the opportunity to write a review. So yes, I will personally do so. Yes. And I just want to say, we're going to wrap up in a minute or two. If you have any last questions for Dalit, please type them now. And I wanted to ask you if there's anything else you'd like to tell us about. Are you working on any projects now, or do you have any ideas about the next direction you're going to go in?
I'm working now on a series, but I don't want to speak about it because it's not, I didn't raise money yet, and I don't want to לפתוח פה לשטן.
Okay.
To open, I don't know how to say it in English. How do you say?
לפתוח מה?
לפתוח פה לשטן.
Oh, you don't want to tempt the devil.
I don't have the money yet, so I'd rather not speak about it.
Well, maybe we can help you fundraise. You all have her email address now, folks.
Yeah. But, I didn't do a lot of work. There was Corona here. We couldn't do anything. So actually, this year was very slow. So comparatively to other years, I'm sure that the same in the United States.
We have one, and we'll make this the final question unless I don't have any more in the next 30 seconds or so. What most draws you to film for telling stories? I think that you can, what type of stories, or what pulls you to certain stories?
First of all, I have to fall in love. I have to fall in love either with the hero of the film, or or the story, or I can relate to. I think it's a complicated question. First of all, through the stories, I travel abroad in my mind. For instance, I spent 2 years with Arab women in the Galilee and got to know how they live and made and fell in love with them and made a film about them. Then I spent 2 years in the ultra Orthodox family here in. Every time I go to another community and understand the way they think, understand the way they feel, and I also worked for 30 years in a show in Israel, in a investigating reporter show in Israel in Channel 1. So and I did all kind of social reports that you can, and I usually I came to the conclusion that all people are alike, you know. When you are human, doesn't matter if you are ultra Orthodox or Arabic or American or Jewish or whatever. People want to be loved, want to be appreciated, and are very angry if somebody disrespects them. And I love to give them voice. That's all. But Gottex, Lea Gottlieb, this film was something new to me because I never did something about art or fashion before, and I fell in love with it too. Actually, after I'm involved with something for a long time, I fall in love with it. It doesn't matter what it is. But this, I liked it. I loved it. It was new to me, and I also would love to make something like that again. So that's.
I have to commend you. I feel like you're sort of the quintessential story of empathy in telling a story. And it feels like when you immerse yourself in a community, it's a really beautiful thing. And it's so inspiring to hear this. And we're very proud to be able to show this film. And I know the community will now go out and try to explore and watch your other films, and wish you so much of all of the best.
I love talking to you.
It's wonderful to see your style of filmmaking, and we all wish you so much luck with your future projects, and we'll definitely keep in touch and try to see your projects. And also on behalf of the community of the Sonoma County Israeli Film Festival, which is a small but mighty festival, our second time online this year, we're just honored to have you here.
Thank you. And that good for me it's good night, for you it's good day.
Yes, good night, sleep well, and happy morning to everybody. Even though it's 1 o'clock now, it feels like morning and we're still drinking our coffee.
Now we have elections in 2 days.
Well, good luck, and we'll keep you in our hearts.
Okay.
Things well in Israel. Thank you so much. And the community is thanking you so much in the comments. And so I'm so glad we enjoyed speaking with you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Take care. And thank you so much.